Well, good morning. Thanks for that introduction. My name is David Silva. On behalf of the University of Texas San Antonio, welcome to San Antonio. San Antonio is a very interesting place for those who visit here. We are the 7th largest city in the United States. People don't often realize that. With one of the largest economic dispersions between our high-income community and our more lower-income community, which tends to be Hispanic and African-American. So for UTSA, we have a really critical mission in actually working with our community leaders to help continue our rise as a city, not only for our citizens, but for the entire state. So here's a couple of fast facts about UTSA. I'm not going to read all of this. Relatively young university, about 52 years old at this point. 35,000 students, 1,400 faculty, living alumni, 142,000. It's now 150 since we graduated, almost 5,000 graduates this weekend. That was fun. What's not on this slide is that we are about 60% Hispanic. Identifying students, mostly here from Texas, and about 40% first generation. So we're really dealing with a unique population within the United States higher education system. You are currently, let's see if I can make this work. You're down here inside of this inner loop. You're about somewhere in here. Our main campus is actually about 13 miles away up the Interstate 10. But there's a lot going on down here. Just to the west of us on the other side of the I-10, I-35 is our downtown campus. And you'll see in a few minutes, we're actually building some really kind of a whole new extension of this on the other side, right in this little block right here. And I'll talk about that in a second. So as I mentioned before, we have a large Hispanic population. We consider ourselves to be a next generation Hispanic thriving institution. We know that especially for our first gen families, when we graduate people with a 4-year degree, no matter what that field is, we're making huge generational change. It's not just for them, but for their families. And so we are growing the leaders of tomorrow. We've also just become designated this year a Tier 1 research university. So in the Carnegie classifications, that means that we've joined the ranks of the most research-intensive institutions in the country. And again, because we are a Hispanic-serving institution, that makes us kind of unique in that multidimensional space. I think the other thing that if some of you may know this, hopefully most of you know this, I didn't know it when I came here 3 years ago, is that San Antonio is actually the second largest concentration of cybersecurity and national security activity outside of the Washington, D.C. area. This is because we have a very large military presence here, especially the 16th Air Force, which is their global cyber operational wing. NSA Texas is the second biggest national security agency hub outside of Washington, D.C. There are many national security and cybersecurity agencies here, about $6 billion in defense contracts and personnel spending. And we have just recently started, we UTSA are leading a new cybersecurity manufacturing innovation institute, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. So within that larger ecosystem, we ourselves have a very large academic and research enterprises that encompasses the entire range of the cybersecurity challenges, working all the way down from bare metal design, all the way up to mission critical continental infrastructure issues. So we have this is concentrated in 3 academic departments: the Department of Information Systems and Cybersecurity, Computer Science, and Electrical Computing Engineering. If you're a UTSA faculty or student, could you raise your hand? All right, good, welcome. And then beyond that, we actually have collaborative interdepartment, intercollege, and in fact, intra-community centers in infrastructure assurance and security, the Cyber Center for Security Analysis, the Institute for Cybersecurity, the National Security Collaboration Center, and again, the Cyber Manufacturing Innovation Institute. We're proud to say we're one of the only universities in the country to hold all 3 National Center of Academic Excellence designations from the NSA and DHS. And since for me as a dean, education is really critical, not only with our students, but in the community. I just wanted to give a shout out to the Center for Infrastructure Assurance and Security, which is again, a multi-college, multi-department exercise, which is really working at the leading edge of doing multidisciplinary education, not only for students, but within the various communities here in Texas. You can, whenever, I think whenever people get hacked in our local communities, of course, you know that if you're like at a local bank or you're a small city somewhere out in the middle of West Texas, this can be hugely devastating. And so this group has been working pretty diligently for more than 15 years on trying to help those smaller communities and smaller groups protect themselves from all sorts of threats. This is a nice picture of one of our collegiate teams competing in one of the many collegiate level competitions that we organize. I should say the CIS organizes. Wanted to talk briefly about the National Security Collaboration Center. This is a relatively new amalgamation of activities that we did on campus in connection with our industry and government partners. This is actually a center which allows us to do both non-classified and classified research. It's currently hosted up on the main campus, but just west of here, between us and the highway, remember I mentioned we're building new buildings. We are building a new building, which you'll see a picture of in a second. It will have a SCIF, and it will also have other areas outside the SCIF for this group to work. So very excited about launching this and moving this forward. Another relatively recent start here at UTSA is something called the Cybersecurity Manufacturing Innovation Institute, CyMANI. CyMANI is a DOE sponsored project, which involves more than 70 institutions, more than $100 million, which is being managed from San Antonio. As you can see, it has the whole idea is to try to secure a manufacturing chain. You can think of this as, so much of what we do now is actually done with computer-aided manufacturing. All you need to do is put a little error or, a little bug into working on turbines for jet engines or something like that. And that could obviously be a, huge disaster. Even if you don't crash a plane, for example, you're still going to screw up the entire supply chain. So securing automation, protecting the supply chain, and building a national program in education workforce development is something that is happening right here in San Antonio. So I already mentioned that we're building a new building. You can see here on the right, on the lower side, is what the architect's drawings looked like 2.5 years ago. In the upper right, you can see what the building looked like in February. It's actually got the outside on it now, so those open floors are now covered. What looks like a big ditch in the front of it is actually part of a City of San Antonio project to actually create a river walk-like experience along something called the San Pedro Creek. So when you go out tonight and you walk around the San Antonio River project, the city, thanks to taxpayer approved bond issues, is now actually working on improving a different watershed just to the west of here, so that our new building will be connected to a whole bunch of other things going on. This was a $90 million build project, and we will open it this summer. I'd like to say this is reality, but this is another drawing. You can see on the left. You can sort of orientate yourself by where by what that water is, that big ditch you saw in the real picture. So the thing to the left is the building where we'll have a school for data science co-located with our National Security Collaboration Center. And then to the west of the creek, closer to the highway, we have submitted plans to the state for an innovation, entrepreneurship, and careers building, so that we actually have this innovation hub downtown, co-located with the city government, a lot of corporate headquarters, and a lot of our biotech startup companies, et cetera, et cetera. So I come to the end of a relatively short and quick introduction to UTSA with a concentration on cyber and national security. There's, of course, all sorts of other things going on. I hope you get a chance to walk around town and or perhaps come up and visit us on campus. And I just end, as always, with pictures of what I think is our core business, which is, educating students and helping them move into the workforce. So have a great conference. Wish I could stay, but otherwise have a great couple of days, and thank you.